Welcome to episode 130 of Project Geekology. And here we are in, just a nice, pristine, year of 2003, nothing to worry about. Actually, psych. It is 2023 and we got zombies or we got clickers outside. We have nothing but the world to worry about. I am one third of your host. Actually, there's only two of us today. So I am one half of your host, Anthony. And joining me today is
Rich. We salute our fallen comrade. Not really. He's just away on special business doing extra special timeline research that I'm sure he'll regale us with on his way back next week.
Yes. And, I realized that I forgot to say what we're covering today, but Rich and I are going to be covering The Last of Us. We're going to really just stick with the first game in the first season, because there's those are, I would say those are the more beloved versions of the IP. So we're just going to stick to that, but before we hop into The Last of Us, Rich, tell us what you have been up to. Hey there, this is Anthony from the future. I'm sorry if the audio is a little different. I'm recording just straight from the laptop. I don't have my setup. But if you are interested in just listening to the meat of the conversation, go over to 10 minutes and 13 seconds, and that is when the discussion starts.
I actually just got back from the state capitol, so that was fun. I went down to Washington, D.C., checked out a couple of museums down there, went to the Library of Congress, the National Archives, the Air and Space Museum. I accidentally wore a Star Wars shirt when I walked in there, but then felt like it was appropriate. And we, of course, this might be a shock to all you guys, but I went to a baseball game. It felt mean because it was the only game of the series the Mets won against the Nationals, but it was a drubbing. The Mets won like 9-1. Their starting pitcher went almost the entire game. And I happened to sit on the third base side in a giant group of Met fans. So you just heard resounding "Let's go Mets" chants. I actually felt bad for the fans there. There were a couple of them who were pretty good natured, but they were sitting in the middle of the group, and it was kind of crazy. So that was a pretty good time.
Now, did you go to Washington, D.C. just to see that game?
I do not. I would rather not confirm or deny. No, I mean, we were picking a spot for vacation, and yes, I mean, there's a very specific reason why we went those days, right? Because the Mets were playing the Nationals.
Oh, okay. So you lined up your vacation with that game so that you could go.
Yes, sir.
So not only is baseball something that you live, it's also a place that you vacation to.
Well, it's there's 30 stadiums, and we're doing the 30 stadium chase, the chase for 30.
Okay. So where have you been out of all 30, like number-wise? How many have you been to?
So as a family, we've been to 7, and then I've personally been to 10 because I have doubles in New York. So I have doubles for the Yankees and doubles for the Mets.
Okay. So you've been to a third. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't really gone out on the West Coast yet. That's going to be, we're going to have to take a look at that one day.
Alrighty. Anything else? What else did you do in Washington, D.C.?
We just went around, checked out a bunch of statues, some architecture, ate a whole bunch, walked a lot. It was pretty nice, but I'm telling you, there were a lot of Met fans walking around the Capitol, and nobody was scared. I'm not sure if it was because of all the extra security, but there were lots of Met fans just roaming around the Capitol.
They were also, they're chasing the 30. I think it was the Washington, D.C. area that I remember coming down. So I was up in New York with Dakota, and I came down with them when they drove down one time it was like his brothers and I and his dad. And I think that we were like in traffic in the DC area, and like there was ice on the road or like packed down snow on the road, and we kind of got stuck. So Dakota and I had to like get out and like push the car, like rock it a little bit to help dislodge it. Dude, that was, in the middle of traffic, that was so annoying.
That sounds insane.
It was, but I mean, we had to do something. Dakota's dad was, obviously he has to like, drive the car forward. So we all had to like get out and like rock the car to like get it to move.
Bunch of Florida boys in the snow.
Well, by then Dakota and them, the rest of them were used to that. But yeah, I was the Florida boy in the snow.
So, what did you get up to this last week?
No, honestly, nothing too insane. Today, as of recording, I binge watched a whole bunch of The Last of Us. There's a few episodes that I still needed to watch. So I would say like 4 episodes, and like I just shotgunned, like binged them for the whole day today. But yeah, no, I know that I'm probably gonna remember at some point that I did something. But I mean, yeah, no, I don't think. Not that obviously, like I gamed. Oh, I did mess with you guys or Dakota yesterday when they announced in the upcoming Overwatch season that there is going to be a Persona collaboration. So, I have to mess with Dakota with that. I mean, come on, man. He knows what I'm about, that Persona life.
Just maybe one day.
One of these days, we're gonna get him on Persona. One of these days.
One day. It might be in the near future or far in advance.
I actually do have a future episode that I would like to do with you guys, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be a gaming episode, and I'm pretty sure Dakota would be on board with this. But I want to discuss the OG Battlefront, the Star Wars Battlefront games.
Oh, nice.
Did you play those, Rich?
Yeah, I did. And then what was the last one? The last one I was very thrown off because the actress who was like the main villain, I think, that you fought against.
I think it's Eden Versio.
Yes.
You actually play as her.
Yeah, okay.
And then
so her.
she like transitions from the Empire over to the Rebel Alliance.
She was in the show The League. The League was a show about a bunch of degenerates who played fantasy football together and the terrible things they would do to each other. And they named their trophy after a girl they had a crush on in high school. So they called it the Shiva Bowl. And she was Shiva. So I turned the game on, and it's like such a crazy thing where I was like, whoa, wait a minute, that's Shiva. And now it always weirds me out when... Like, I mean, with Sam Witwer, I think has done the same thing where his face is actually in the game. So I always find it crazy when we actually have, not like when they make a movie and then they make the game after the movie, but when like a character is actually just written for a game and the actor just, that's...
Well, I think for me, I was off put when I saw him in the Star Wars game because I had seen him in media prior to that. Like, he was always casted as, like, a vampire,
Wasn't he... I think he had been in Smallville when the game came out. I hope I'm not ruining anything.
Maybe.
But he's definitely in Smallville.
I'm watching through... I haven't come across him yet, but there might be a possibility that he's in that. But, yeah, he's definitely... I've seen him in a handful of things, but... Yeah, no, that's interesting. But, yeah, no, I would say overall for me, it hasn't been too insane. I've been playing... Overwatch, I've been playing World of Warcraft. I'm kind of like in a routine with like, flipping between both of those games. And actually, after we finish up recording today, I'm going to be heading out and going to be playing Magic the Gathering with some friends.
Nice. Yeah.
Just diving deep into that nerdiness, man.
Being away, sadly, I wasn't able to game much. I did bring the Switch One, but I ended up not. I've been trying to finish out Breath of the Wild, just getting every shrine that I can find. So I know I can beat Ganon, but I really just I'm not gonna get all the Korok seeds. It's too much work. That's kind of crazy. But
you're a completionist. You want to like go the full way.
I generally do. I mean, the only game I haven't been able to complete, I think, is Red Dead. Not 100%, because part of it's like you have to, let's say, have a certain amount of headshots on this mission, and I don't really play for those things, so I'll never get 100%, but I'm pretty close with like most of the pelts and things like that, the legendary animals. I'm starting to actually pay way more attention to the birds this time, so that's been new.
I'm also, so I kind of feel you on that. There's certain things in games that I really just don't care for. I don't care for racing in games that aren't racing games. I don't care for time trials. The only game that I would say that I actually really went and platinum because I loved the game so much was that first Spider-Man game that came out, I think back in 2018. Was it?
Yeah.
So I actually platinumed that game just because it was like the definitive Spider-Man experience. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to platinum this.
I platinum all the Spider-Man games. I platinum the Lego games. I will not stop with those games. If it's a reasonable platinum, I will probably do it. Now, I have also no compunctions about going online and like, oh, you need this many. Where's the next bag? Where's the next bag? Like the hidden backpacks and stuff in Spider-Man, like I had no problems looking up where they all were, But I will sit there and platinum the game if it's reasonable.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so I don't know if you are ready, but did you want to hop into the meat of the conversation, man? The Last of Us?
Let's go. Let's jump into this with some cordyceps.
Is it The Last of Us, or, like how many, of their, like there's just the amount, they keep on coming out with The Last of Us games and there's just more and more people. So like, who is The Last of Us?
It's very unclear. I mean, and also us is such a nebulous word. So, I mean, it could be, two, or obviously it could be many. I think this is what happens when, we can't use ChatGPT and our cell phones to figure out where people are.
So I want to know a little bit about like your relationship with The Last of Us. Did you hop into the game before the show, or did you just watch the show?
So I remember when the game first came out, my friend got it and he said, oh, this game's really cool. You should check it out. And I didn't buy it, and he came over, and I remember just being way too afraid when I was playing it. And I think that because I wasn't great at it because I was so afraid, I started nitpicking certain gameplay mechanics as I'm watching. I'm like, oh, convenient. There's always a plank of wood whenever Ellie needs to swim across somewhere. Or, oh, convenient. There are always ladders everywhere, right? I don't know why I was attacking the game so much, but I was. I didn't play it the first, release. I want to say I played it way after when it became, a greatest hit on PlayStation. I didn't get the remastered version. It's like I got gypped out. I feel like I got the version before the remastered version. Like just before it, I had gotten it, whatever. And I think that because I got it for free from the monthly downloads or something, they didn't let me just get the upgrade. So before the series started, I made a point to definitely play it through. And I think I played it through twice before I got to see the show.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm actually with you on that. I didn't get it when it first came out. I actually never owned a PS3. In that era, I was more into the Xbox 360. I really felt like the Xbox 360 I was in a time where I was gaming with friends a lot, and I felt like the Xbox Live experience was the better online experience.
I think that's
when it came to connecting with friends, and I just felt like their servers were better. So I hadn't gotten the PS3. That was the one PlayStation that I never got. I had the 1, I had the 2, I had the 4 and the 5, but I never got the 3. So it was when I got the 4, when I got PS4, they had a version that came out for the PS4, but it wasn't a remaster version. I think it was kind of upscaled.
I think we played the same one because I had an Xbox 360 too. So I think this makes sense. I think I played that version that you're talking about.
Okay, yeah. So I always knew I wanted to play it because I thought it looked cool. And it's a Naughty Dog game. I like the Naughty Dog games. They have Uncharted. They have Jak and Daxter. I grew up on those. So... it just looked really good. And so when I finally got into it, I think I played it maybe 2017, maybe 2016, right. 2017, around that time was when I actually sat down and played it. My mind was blown. I was so drawn into the story. I was like, man, this is a story-driven video game. This is you're playing through a movie or you're playing through a TV show. So I was really blown away and I absolutely loved it. And so, yeah, man, and then obviously when the second one came out, I was a day one, that was a day one acquire for me. I went for it because I was I love this game. The story is amazing. I need to get the second one. We'll keep the second one for. Yeah, I think we'll talk about it because there's still more to be told as far as the show, because there's another season that has to cover another aspect for the second game. So, but we have a completed first season, for the first game. So when the show came out, I was really, I was a little nervous because I was like, I really hope that they do well with this because this is a game that means a lot to me and the story is really good. And I was pleasantly surprised that they kept with pretty much like all the major story beats, and then they filled in information that was not in the games.
Yeah, and then even I don't want to do spoiler stuff, but I will just say that
we can. The Last of Us season 1.
Or what I mean is okay, so like there were things from the first game that were missing from the first season, right? In terms of interacting with the environment that then is addressed in the second season. So it made my because there was one of the few things that made me angry was just one of the environmental changes that occurs in the first one in terms of the spores. So it was just kind of one thing that I thought that was weird they left out of season 1, but then I thought they did a good job of incorporating season 2.
Oh, okay, yeah. I know what you're talking about. I do like that the first season of the show does a really good job at explaining the cordyceps. And
I did like those clips. Like
right. And I was just like, oh wow, this is really cool because the existence of cordyceps exists, and the ones that he was talking about, the zombie ants, that's a real fungus. It's like, and then his explanation that it's like, the world got warmer, and so it had to adapt, and then it adapted to where it could take over a human's body, or it not that it could, that at that point, it was like, I think in the 1960s was that clip. He was saying that that's where it's headed, that it could end up in that, at that point. And that's exactly what happened. So I really like that they had those clips that explained cordyceps, and then, kind of like where the start of where it happens, and then adding that whole Jakarta scene where, and then like the lady is like, no, we got to bomb everybody or this is going to get out of hand.
I loved like the little, what is it that, I think it's that Joel, he wasn't on a diet. He's gluten-free, and that's why they hadn't been getting bread. Right? Like that little, so, because they're kind of explaining that it's kind of in the bread, right? And all that kind of stuff. And he's gluten-free, so they get the gluten-free stuff, and that's not affected. Like the cordyceps didn't get into the flour or whatever.
Right. Like there's like no yeast or anything.
Yeah, and I thought that was such a little tiny, it's just I love that kind of little background stuff that you can hear that later you're like, oh, okay, right?
Yeah.
It's not in your face, right? It's just such a casual little thing. Like I think his daughter complains about it or something, and he's like, oh, whatever, and he makes up, he defends himself to an extent, and I think that's just a smart way of showing us how they may have avoided it when everybody else was exposed to it.
Right. And then something that's different between the game and the show is the time gap. So in the game, it came out in 2013, so the outbreak happens in 2003, and then it jumps up to 2013, and then this is where the main game happens. But in the show, it jumps up 20 years to 2023, which is the year that it aired. So we had a pretty massive like time skip. So like instead of having like a Joel in his 40s, we have a Joel in his 50s. So he's a little older.
Yeah, and I think it works. Pedro Pascal does a great job. I think he was fantastic casting for Joel. I don't remember if there was any discussion about other people doing it. I can't think of any actors off the top of my head that I would have rather had in this role. Looking back on it now, obviously there's a little Pedro fatigue. I love the man, but I'm sick of him being, we talked about this on the Fantastic Four episode, but I'm a huge Last of Us fan. He's in Last of Us. I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. He's in Game of Thrones. I'm a huge Marvel fan. He's in Marvel. It's like, come on, buddy. I need you to be one person.
Yeah, maybe take a little bit of a break and let somebody else, I guess take the spotlight.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree. What are your thoughts on Bella Ramsey? Because she was also in Game of Thrones. There was a bit of a pushback because of, that she doesn't look as much like Ellie. I mean, Pedro doesn't look too much like Joel, but he's close enough, I guess. But Bella, her face, very much so doesn't look like Ellie.
Listen, I mean, you and I both know why there was so much backlash, right? It's just like people were crushing on her in the video game, and they were like, that's not my crush, And it's, there was also, I remember in Witcher, they changed, Jen's character, I think looks very different, the actress in the show than does in the game. And it doesn't really have any impact on the story at all for me, other than, that I was crushing on her in the video game, And I was like, hey, that looks different than my crush, But I didn't take to the internet to be like, this is absurd. I wasn't that upset about it. And in this case, I know her as the badass girl from Bear Island, I think it's Bear Island, the Mormont family. So she's the last of the Mormonts when they're kind of going to battle against, I think it's Cersei's army at first, but then the White Walkers. And they have like 12 men, but she like very fiercely pledges for them. So when I saw her being cast, I was like, well, she plays a little badass really well. I think she even goes to battle in the show. Like, she's a pretty big badass. So I thought that in terms of, can the actor handle that type of, like, being a badass? Yeah, I thought that was going to be the really easy part. If anything, I was worried about whether she would hit the emotional beats, because I hadn't seen her do that before.
Right, yeah. So I didn't really get upset when I saw the casting. For me, it's just like, as long as she looks close enough to the character, but if you get you have to get that personality down, right? And I think that she does a really good job at getting Ellie's personality. So does Pedro with Joel's personality. Even the actor that portrays Tommy does a really good job at portraying his character. So yeah, like, let's talk a little bit about, like, the beginning of the story. It starts us off in 2003 in both the game and the show. And Joel, he's just living his life out with his brother. They're contractors, and the outbreak happens. And then we get something really tragic that happens to Joel that really builds up for what happens throughout the game, in the show.
Yeah, I think they do a really good job of kind of sending in both versions, they do a good job of world building and, kind of quickly getting you to understand what it was like before you're going to get flash forward into what it is. I think that, like, the Fallout series did a really good job of that too, right? Because it's still kind of our world, but they have to establish the parameters. And I thought that they did a good job of that with the 1970s video and the Jakarta stuff. And then Joel's, his daughter and everything, and kind of the tragedy that he goes through with her, and how he's a different man. Yeah. He just seems like a regular dad who's trying to protect his kid. He doesn't seem like he's a badass. I can't remember. Does he display some gun skills at the beginning? But either way, it's nothing like, nothing that we know of him in the future.
Right. Yeah, no, it is both, like, heartbreaking in both the game and the TV show, to see his daughter being, she gets shot. I guess, like, the army's just trying to, like, fend them to get away, but I mean, it's still sad to see that she gets shot in that whole process, and then she gets killed. And so yeah, like, we flash forward, and yeah, Joel, the world is hardened. He's in a Boston kind of DMZ kind of area. It's everything's kind of locked down. You have this militaristic group that it has taken control of this area. And yeah, I mean, Joel has been hardened by life. Obviously grief did a lot, and then just going through dealing with the zombies and then dealing with raiders and the fireflies and everything. So there's just a lot that goes on in this world that really would harden somebody. So yeah, no, I really do feel for Joel. I understand why he's kind of, just kind of on edge. And so yeah, I really enjoy seeing how his character evolves throughout the show and the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the game is able to do it a little bit differently. So that's
because you're experiencing it as if it's you're playing this character. So in a way, the story might be the same for everybody, but the experience is different for each person.
Yeah, and that's, I think, his daughter dying at the beginning, is obviously sad, but because of the nature of the way the story is being told, you feel, I mean, as a parent, yeah, I feel bad for him because I can sympathize, but I don't truly know his daughter well enough to care particularly. And I think that when you're playing as the character, you're like, oh no, that's me. There's a little bit more, I don't have a dissociative personality. I'm not like, oh yeah, that's, that's my daughter. I can't believe she died, but you do feel more of a connection, I think.
Yeah. The game. I do like that they expanded her a little bit more, I guess, to develop a little bit more of a connection, because you didn't get too much of her in the game, but they try to add her a little bit more. And I think that there are certain aspects that they wanted to improve upon from the game. And then that's why we got those clips of, about the scientists talking about the cordyceps and then the whole Jakarta thing. And so I really do appreciate those additions to the show that really adds to the lore. We have Ellie, who, she's an orphan. She has no family. She's got these people, the fireflies, that they want to transport her to another group of scientists within the Firefly organization. There's different groups, there's different sects of fireflies. And so the one in Boston, Joel kind of gets wrapped up into being somebody that, he gets to the point to where he has to deliver her. And so, yeah, Ellie is just, she's hardened. She's gone through a really hard time of her life too. And so when you kind of get to know Ellie and Joel a little bit, you get to realize that they're kind of they're two sides of the same coin. They're very similar. Joel sees her as this little girl, but she's been hardened. He tries to put some comparisons, with his daughter, but she's very different from his daughter. She has been kind of battle-hardened a little bit in life. I mean, she's grown up in a really crappy world.
Yeah, I know, it's completely different. I mean, we joke about it here. We live not far from a little harbor, and whenever I think about, I'm like, the zombie apocalypse, I talk to my family about it. My wife's like, look, you're gonna have to make the hard choice, and you can't take me with you if you want our son to live, because I'm gonna be useless. And he's not gonna be the little boy who just likes to go to Met games. He's gonna be the little boy who watched his dad have to take his mom out before they left the house and tried to live amongst the zombies. So I just think that she's going to be a completely different person than his actual daughter, because she's grown up in a completely different, time period. What's really danger, and, what you can do and how you can experiment with growing up.
Alrighty. Yeah, if you hear some thunder in the background, yeah, we got some thunder going on, man. It's kind of crazy right now.
Florida always being Florida.
Yeah, man. Florida's just being Florida, man. So what I was talking about was that the show added this whole section. They added that whole section where they meet this group in one of the cities that they go through, and Joel ends up killing the son of I always forget her name, the lady that's in charge of this group.
Oh, yes. I can't remember her name either for some reason. Yeah, I mean, It's a little. I think it's a little easier to understand in the game because you're reading. Like you're reading some of the missives, and I think you're getting a little bit more about the groups and why Joel might be distrustful of them.
Right. Yeah, because the group that is in charge of Boston they're called Fedra. Mm-hmm. And they're a little bit more of like the remnants of like the old worlds, but not everybody likes that. You have groups like this one that Joel and Ellie come across, and then there's also raiders, and you also have like cultists. There's just so much going on. And so yeah, like this is a new group that was added to the show. One of the cool things is that the lady's name was Kathleen, and this happens in Kansas City. And so her right-hand man, Perry, is played by Jeffrey Pierce, and he actually does the voice of Tommy in the game.
Yeah, they did that a couple other times, I think, later in the series. Right?
Yes. I was really happy that they snuck in a good... Well, they didn't sneak them in. They did sneak in one, but like you have later in the series, you have Ashley Johnson that cameos as Ellie's mother, and she's the voice of Ellie. You also have Troy Baker, who plays James, and he's in like that cultist group. Troy Baker is the voice of Joel. You also get Laura Bailey, which Laura Bailey doesn't come in until the second game, but she cameos as one of the Firefly nurses later in the show. But it's really cool that they incorporated all of these characters that were in the game, that they like incorporated their voice talent into the show. You also had Merle Dandridge, so the leader of the Fireflies in Boston is Marlene, and so she like plays a role. She's the one that does the handoff of Ellie to Joel, and so she's actually the voice in the game, and she actually plays her character in the show. So I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, we've also seen like in Star Wars, I think Bo-Katan, the voice actress, was able to be in the show. So I mean, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes maybe just for. I mean, obviously Ashley Johnson's older, then they want Ellie to be portrayed in the show and everything. So I'm going to go that way. But to find a spot for them, I think it's a really nice way of them acknowledging the importance those people had, because if the voice actors hadn't been as good as they were, maybe the game doesn't take off the way it does.
Right. No, I agree. And so, dude, let me tell you, one of the episodes that like, and these characters are in the show, I think it's Sam and Henry that they come across. That episode always wrecks me, dude. That episode is really hard to watch.
Yeah.
And I can imagine you as a father, like, that must be a tough watch. And I'm not a father myself, but like, I have like young family members, and, just the interaction, the relationship that is built throughout, and they have it in the game. And in the show, they make him younger.
Yeah.
He's a little bit older in the game, but they make him younger in the show. And so Ellie, it's almost like a young brother kind of dynamic with Ellie and Sam. And, Sam, and let me tell you, the actor that portrayed Sam was so good.
Yeah.
He was so good. And like, he was adorable. And he was really like, they made him deaf. And so, and the actual actor himself was deaf. And so I thought that was like a really interesting dynamic that they added. Yeah, man, that episode is really, really tough because, yeah, you see that friendship that grows, that blossoms, that relationship. They go through some stuff, especially they added that whole scene with the stand down between Kathleen and her group. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of clickers come out of nowhere with a bloater. That scene is so insane that they had added that scene, because I thought it was like a really great addition.
The one scene that I think it was a weird addition was that I'm pretty sure it's this season. It's the Tess gets kissed by the cordyceps, like the cordyceps
Oh yeah,
comes out of
earlier
the
in the
mouth.
season.
You know,
Yeah.
that was like, and she just like sits there horrified and doesn't move. I was like, all right. I mean, definitely something made for the show that, obviously this is all make believe, but there's still stuff that you're like, what? Why doesn't she move? That's so weird. She just kind of like accepts him as her prom date. But some of the scenes are really true to the game.
Yeah.
And, I think season 2, has a couple of things that are really, I was really happy that they got it kind of, well, I'll say right. And it looks like they're building, obviously I think they're getting more money a little bit. So the second season seemed to have like a kind of more grandiose set pieces. And
Yeah. No, of course. Yeah. Like if you have a successful first season, you're definitely going to get a bigger budget on the second one. So, but yeah, no, yeah. So with Sam, Sam gets infected during like that whole like kerfuffle with the walkers, and then you see that Sam gets bit, and it, dude, let me tell you, and then that interaction, dude, like my heart freaking broke when he wrote down, "If you turn into a monster, are you still you in the inside?" Dude, I was just like, like, because there had been some distance between the last time I played the game and when I watched the show. So I remember the characters, but I didn't exactly remember how things went down. And so when that whole thing went down, like, dude, it broke my heart. Sam turns into a walker, and then Henry being the one to shoot him. And it all happened so fast. Like it's all reactionary, and then the crushing guilt of what happened falling on Henry, and then him turning the gun on himself. That episode, like, dude, it is such a hard watch because you grow to like these characters, especially Sam, because you have, Ellie doesn't really have that many people that are close to her age, but Joel has that all around him. Like he connects a little bit with Henry, even though Henry's a little bit younger, but Henry is still like a father figure to his brother, whereas Joel becomes a father figure to Ellie.
It's tough, man. You gotta turn those, once they get infected, they're not your family anymore. That's the hard truth in kind of this world. And that's why for such a long time Joel had no attachments, because life was way simpler. I mean, you got to remember that everybody can be your worst enemy in 2 seconds. And I think the addition of making him deaf even goes to show that, like, I mean, think about it, clickers, right? Being able to hear them is a defense, right? So you don't have that, Henry has to be extra vigilant for both,
Right, yeah. And honestly, like, on the topic of clickers, like, they nailed them so good. And like the interactions and the things that they do, they even like use some of the methods of like navigating around them like they do in the games, like, tossing bottles and stuff. So yeah, I thought that was, they did really great. They did really good with the bloater too. Just some of the practical effects that they had in this show were really, really good. I am really, really glad when I start to see more practical effects. I understand that CGI is more cost effective, but practicality looks a lot better sometimes. Not all the time. If you could do it right, then yeah. But like if not, then just go the CGI route. The walkers look really, really good, especially the clickers. They changed Bill a little bit, Bill and Frank. Mm-hmm. They added like a whole episode and kind of expanded a little bit more on them. Like, what were your thoughts of like that addition from the game to the show? Because I mean, that was pretty much like a whole episode of something that we didn't even have in the game. We had Bill, there's Bill and Frank, but I think at the point where you get to the game, I think Frank was already gone, and you don't know the nature of the relationship in the game.
I thought it was really well done. I mean, I think it gave us a slice into what normal life looked like at a certain point during the outbreak, and how the stress of that world can impact relationships. And I think that if I remember the pacing of the season, it came in a good place where it kind of allowed the audience to take a breath between the next series of events.
And I guess like it also allowed them to kind of like travel from there's like travel time in that period of time, and then it explained their characters, and then explained kind of why Joel went to this place, right? You know, because like if he would have popped up there and just been like, yeah, you know, this is my buddy, you know, it's Bill and Frank's place, but you don't know who they are, right? You know, he's not dead in the game when you meet him, but he's dead when Joel and Ellie get to that point, you know, that Frank gets sick, and so they kind of go out together essentially.
Yeah, I thought that was really well done. I know some people complained about that episode, but I thought it added more to the story, so I didn't have any issue with it.
And so, yeah, we're kind of like hopping around, which, I mean, is the nature of our podcast. We always hop around. But then, you know, we get there's that point where Joel gets injured in a scuffle with some raiders, and Ellie kind of has to like take care of him. That's in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember that in the game. And this is where you kind of like navigate. You play as Ellie for a little while, and yeah, you know, we have these cultists, you know, and then Troy Baker, which is kind of facing off against his real life counterpart. Like, you know, like he voices the character, so like he's facing off against the character that he voices for. What did you think about that interaction? You know, that how they did that whole sequence?
I thought it was really good because I had forgotten why I should be scared, I think, at first. So, you know, I don't think it quite hits the same, because I think in that portion of the game, you're pretty freaked out. By that point in the game, you know how dangerous everything is around you, and now you're not Joel, you're Ellie. So...
Yeah, a little bit more vulnerable. They always make the smaller characters a little bit more vulnerable, so
I think that you know, that was really... I don't think there's any way they could have kind of made it the same, but I thought the interaction was really good, and I thought the cabin scene, or the lodge scene when it's burning, I thought that was super well done. And I actually thought that Bella Ramsey came off to me as... See, this is where I think her casting works well, because I don't think I never was scared of Ellie. Like, you know, she started doing darker things, but I guess the character model is always so cheery looking. I mean, it still had sad face sometimes, but just when like Bella is able to kind of escape Troy, and as she's like going crazy on him, there's something about, you know, the way the character is like unraveling, right? You could see the actor, you could see Bella Ramsey unraveling. And really kind of going into madness, right? Where I don't think there was ever a time where, and I mean, we've seen Ellie do some things, but I don't know. It's something about the way the hair is poking up, and the way the blood is spattered, and I don't know. There's something to be said.
She was in true like fight or flight mode, and like in that instance, like she knew that like she was gonna die if she either did not get out, or if she didn't fight. She was at a point where she had no choice. She had to fight, you know? And I really think, I mean, obviously there's been a build up to this point, but I feel like it's after this where you really feel Joel and Ellie lock into that father and daughter dynamic. There's always kind of been that dynamic building up to it, but like you really, really feel, because he embraces her and he calls her baby girl.
Yeah, and I think that the show was more effective in getting us to see that Ellie's going down a very dark path. Because you're killing so many people. In the game, like, you have to kill people, right? Like, I feel like I played tons of games where I kill people, but if I keep the killing to a minimum, I feel better, right? Like in Red Dead, I generally don't kill random NPCs. I don't really rob the trains unless I'm forced to. I don't rob the stagecoaches unless I'm forced to. But like, if I do something and somebody's gonna go rat me out, like they're an eyewitness, I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to kill him, and I try, and I don't even feel too bad about it as I dump their body on a campfire like savagely to make sure there's no evidence.
Oh man, so you're taking snitches get stitches to the whole new level.
Oh,
you're
yeah,
saying
no.
snitches get roasted.
Oh no, if I have to kill somebody in Red Dead, I'm going to burn them. So
You don't bring them to the alligator.
I will do that. I really. I don't want to turn this into how many
The Red Dead podcast. No, I get it.
But when you're playing as Ellie and you're playing as Joel, and there's nobody really in the game that I feel like you kill and you really terribly feel bad about, because even in the game, when you get to the last, when Joel's about to break her out, right, when he figures out what's going on, you're like, I gotta get Ellie, right? Like, that's what you're thinking as the player. So
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, I got some AKs now. I'm excited about that. And I didn't feel bad about killing everybody in that facility, because by that point in the game, I'm so connected to her. And
right.
The show does a really good job, I think, of kind of demonstrating how dark both of them are in a way that I think because of the nature of you being the player, you don't feel that way.
Right. Yeah. So when you're experiencing it, it's easy to kind of glaze over stuff. But when you're an actual like observer, you can always pick up like, any subtle nuances or anything that like just the very smallest of like just detail. And that's why I say like Joel and Ellie are very much so two sides of the same coin, except one is a 14-year-old girl and the other's a 36-year-old man, or in the show, a 56-year-old man. So he's 46 in the game, because it's 10 years later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really feel like one of the biggest things. So this game takes place in the zombie apocalypse. You have zombies, clickers, everything going on, but it's very much so like a backdrop to this game. I feel like the biggest thing about this game is that it's like found family. Ellie finds a father figure in Joel, and Joel almost gets like a second chance in a way with having a daughter, because she's about the same age as his daughter when she got killed.
Yeah, and I mean, I've always argued on both the show and the game that if the Fireflies had just talked to her beforehand, things would have been wildly different.
Oh, right, yeah. I guess they didn't want to tell her the truth of the fact that, like, she's going to be killed. Essentially, she's going to be a guinea pig, because they need to figure out, like, why her blood is immune. Like, the whole point, pretty much the game and the show, is you playing as Joel and sometimes Ellie. You're bringing her to a group of scientists with a group called the Fireflies, because Ellie is immune to the virus, or to the cordyceps. She's been bitten. She has not been turned. And so, essentially, she can be she almost can kind of be a little reckless. I mean, not too reckless in the sense that you could still get killed, but like, it doesn't matter if she gets bit, because she's not gonna, unless she has a jugular torn out. If she gets bit on the ankle, nowhere serious, I mean, she's not gonna turn.
Yeah, and I mean, I've always, obviously that they need to structure it that way so that she has a reason to be angry at Joel, but I won't lie, I've never thought that Joel made the wrong decision.
Right. Well, yeah, I was actually going to ask you, like, at the end of the show and end of the game, yeah, you bust in through the Firefly hospital after turning her over, after, you find out, he's on his way out. He gets everything he wants. He's got his car, he's got his supplies, he's about to head out. But then he finds out that Ellie is going to get killed in this process. And so, yeah, he goes in guns blazing. You go in guns blazing.
Like I said,
I personally don't think, like, I understand. And it's like a philosophical conundrum. It's like, are you going to save the one, or are you going to save the many, right?
But the thing is, it's
a moral thing.
Yeah, but there's no guarantee that that's even the case.
Right. Like, there's no guarantee.
Like, look, I don't want to tell you that I would easily subscribe to my son being killed for medicine, right? But if I knew, they were like, this is 1,000% sure. They were killing her so that they could possibly, like, why didn't you run some tests? Like, I mean, I think also, and I mean, it's, due to video games and timing.
Right. Yeah, that was my thought too, in a way.
Like, why did she run?
Did you really have to take all the blood?
Yeah, like,
to like figure this out? Could you not, like, dude, you can take enough blood from somebody. I mean, if they could take bags of blood off of you to like donate to people, they could do the same process to like figure out I guess like figure out a way to like build up this immunity or this cure. And it doesn't have to happen all at once. Like, take a bunch of bags, give her some time to rest, obviously build up her blood again, and then just like do it again. Maybe look for more people who are immune.
I think if I remember, it had something to do with them like needing to like split her brain apart.
Oh yeah, right. You're right. I think that might have been the case.
But I'm sure that like
it's been a while.
But I'm sure that they, like you said, could have spent some days analyzing blood because our immunity and our white cell blood count is in the blood, right? So maybe in synthesize, right? There could have been something like that. But that's always been a point of contention I had with the game, and obviously the show followed suit because it can't do anything differently. But that's always been one thing that just bugged me. It's like if they just ran tests, or if it was just presented in a slightly different way.
Yeah, I agree. I think that blood tests would have saved a lot. But then something that happens at the end of the show and game sets you up for pretty much the entirety of like the next game. Yeah, I mean, and we'll talk about that another day because that's a whole different. Yeah, we're waiting for we got the Last of Us season 2 that pretty much played out like exactly like the game. You get Ellie's point of view, and then you're gonna get the other, I guess, protagonist point of view for season 3, and then that'll wrap up that whole thing. But yeah, man, The Last of Us, I really do think that they did a really good job on this first season, just portraying the characters, building the world. It's really important, right? If you have a game that's really story driven, that builds the world, you have to do a really good job if you're going to rehash that. And then it's okay that they took some liberties to add to the lore, right? We got some of these extra scenes that explained a lot of the background stuff and the origin, just a lot of this extra stuff that was added. I really enjoy that. I think it's Naughty Dog that makes this game. Yes. Well, there's a. Are you talking about The Last of Us?
Well, yeah. Well, I was thinking about another game, Days Gone By. I don't know if you ever got a chance to play it. So it's Sam Witwer, to reference him again for the second time. He's the main character, and it's basically a zombie apocalypse, but it's a guy on a motorcycle. And you can upgrade your motorcycle and stuff like that, and there's hordes, and it's crazy. And seeing how well this show was produced, I would almost hope that at some point we could see something like that, because that game has some crazy set pieces with hordes coming after you. And I think it would be really cool to see the minds behind this show dabble there, but that probably won't happen.
So that was developed by Bend Studio.
Oh, Bend. All right.
So yeah, no, not Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog games have kind of similar gameplay. Not so much Jak and Daxter, but I don't know if you see like the similarities between Uncharted and The Last of Us.
I love Uncharted.
Some of the gunplay is very similar, although the difficulty in The Last of Us is tweaked a little bit more because they want things to be scarce, and then you have to kind of like build things. And I like that whole dynamic of like building and improving your weapons, like with makeshift silencers and whatnot.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy that part of the game as well. I mean, I do play it on a fairly low difficulty because at this advanced stage, I don't have time for the anger stars.
Dude, I mean, honestly, at this point, like a lot of people, if you just want to enjoy the story, you don't really have to like worry about that. Like, dude, achievement hunting and trophy hunting, man, that's a young man's game.
Yeah, no,
not all the time, but I know some older folk that actually like to trophy hunt, but You know what I mean?
My son
Like,
is gonna play.
nobody's judging.
My son's about to like try to play Ghost of Tsushima on like he beat the game, so he's gonna do like a new game plus on like harder difficulty. And I was like, all right, man, God bless.
I think that there's like no UI or anything on that.
Yeah, I'm like,
that's tough.
I'm like, good luck, buddy. Good luck. Yeah, I'm like, I will not be aiding you in this quest. That's not something I do anymore.
Nice. But yeah, I mean, I think that we're essentially at the point of the podcast where we can kind of unwind. I don't know if you had any more, anything else you wanted to add or whatnot.
Well, I guess the only thing I would add is I know everybody was very excited that we got a Last of Us 2 video game and we got the matching show, but I think there's such wildly different experiences. The first game, I didn't want to keep playing the second game. I'll leave it there. I was kind of like, oh, I don't want to do this. And it almost felt like a chore, but I kept going anyway. And it'll be interesting to me to see how the fandom reacts. That's not the game player. Because, as you talked about, you referenced the shift in protagonist. I was like, no. But there was nothing to do, right? If you wanted to finish the game, you had to play as a protagonist. And I think that because it's a video game, you kind of just choose to keep going, right?
Right.
I don't know what happens if people tune into season 3 and they get this new protagonist who they would presumably dislike.
Well, I mean, I think they kind of set people up for that a little bit towards the end, but yeah, we'll definitely get to that when, we'll cover The Last of Us 2 and we'll talk about the seasons that kind of like connect with it and how, the second game, it was definitely controversial. And so it was interesting. It was like, knowing that, it's like, how are you guys going to set it up? Because there's a lot of people who don't play the games, who don't even go to watch the games. Like, how are you going to react? Because, coming in 5 years later, like, I knew this happened, a lot of stuff happened 5 years later or earlier. So
and that's the other
it was
part
interesting.
Of it. It's the wait.
And so
right?
that was my thought with the first game too, was like, I knew some of the story beats and I was like, man, I wonder like how people are going to react to this. Because to me, I enjoy the story of The Last of Us more than The Walking Dead. But then again, I only stopped at like season 4. I couldn't go any further. But yeah, last thoughts on The Last of Us game and TV show.
Both highly recommended. I would do the game first. It's a different experience. I'm always a sucker for the original, so I don't think there's anything they could have done in the show to get me to tell you that the show is better. That it's just not going to happen. I love the game, but they did a really good job of adapting it, and I think it's highly recommended. It's better. It's definitely better than Naughty Dog's other adaptation because I did not like the casting of Uncharted, so I thought they did a much better job here.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And then just one last thing before, and this just kind of popped up into my head before I put my 2 cents between the game. Something else that they added to the show that was originally DLC to the game was the Left Behind, the relationship between Ellie and Riley.
Yep.
And so like they made that a whole episode, and that was pretty much DLC for the game. So they incorporated that story into the show also.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job with that too, because I think it just fleshes out the world a little bit better.
No, yeah. No, I agree. And then the minor little scenes on the background that I have for me this week is the scene with Ellie and Joel, and they come across some giraffes. They had that in the show. I like it when they add even like the minor scenes that are impactful to the relationship. It really helps with that gradual build that they have between Ellie and Joel as pseudo father and daughter. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you with the show. It's a great watch. The game is a really good experience, and it is, I would agree with playing the game because you go from becoming a casual observer to being an actual participant when you play the game. So the dynamic is different. The experience is different. But I do feel like a lot of the emotional impact remains because you still have those major story beats that are important. But I give a double thumbs up for the game and a double thumbs up for the show because they do a good job for both. And then, yeah, you had the showrunner and the game director working close together. So, that's important.
Yeah, definitely agree. And I give them high marks for both.
Alrighty, well, thank you for joining us here for episode 130 of Project Geekology. And if you want to check us out any further, our socials, they're going to be in the show notes below. And as always, whether it's juicy or crunchies, give us a 5-star review. And if it allows you to comment, give us your thoughts. We would love to see and read them. We do enjoy interacting with our fans, so definitely follow us on our socials because we do announce when we drop episodes, and we do interact whenever you all speak with us. So I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and we don't know what our next episode is going to be, so keep an ear out for that. Thank you. Bye.
The Wolverine.